welcome back to the Antisocial Planet. Today we're watching episodes 12 and 13 of Ergo Proxy. So last episodes were a lot. There was there was more going on, I'm sure, than I picked up on, which happens a lot with this show. But we had a lot going on with just Vincent, or I guess Ergo Proxy now, but with him kind of coming to terms with the fact that he is a proxy and the facade that was Vincent Law crumbling down. So we had kind of this like dream sequence thing, but it was also kind of like a recap of some of the stuff that's been going on in this episode so far. And we kind of had Vincent not only living through moments where the proxy was like a huge part of the stuff that was going around in his life, the stuff that was going on in his life, but also getting pieces of memories that we hadn't seen before. So we saw a little bit of him being in Riel's apartment. We saw some of him like leaving mosque and, immigrating. And so we're kind of seeing him starting to pull some of those memories that he had suppressed before that were like from when he was the proxy. So definitely going to be interesting to see how he progresses through that journey and how he grabs more and more memories. I'll be interested to see how easily or how difficult it is for him to pull those memories because he did voluntarily give them up from what I can understand. And they're supposed to be with Monad, who may or may not be revived by Daedalus again. I mean, they're kind of like gods, so I assume that they can be revived. Daedalus seems kind of confident that he's able to do it, and he'd better because Raul wants that to happen. So we'll see kind of what happens with the memories, especially since we had Riel going after Vincent. She is assumed dead by most of the people. Daedalus knows that she's still alive because he helped her get out of the city, but also Raul suspects that she's still alive. I'm sure there's some other people who suspect that she's alive too, but Riel and Iggy left to go after Vincent and get some answers, and we ended off the last episode with Riel showing up to where Vincent and Pino were, so we're gonna kind of see that interaction, and like as Riel demands answers, I'm sure that that'll like jumpstart some of the memories coming back to Vincent or Ergo Proxy. I don't really know what to call him anymore. I'm like, is he Ergo? Is he Vincent? I mean, we did have the book that said Vincent Law on it, and then it disappeared. So I'm assuming that was very symbolic of like Vincent Law disappearing from existence. But I still think of him as Vincent. So I don't know. We'll see what Pino says. If Pino still calls him Vince, then that's what we're going with because I just love Pino so much. And I'm so excited to see Iggy and Pino interact with each other. I think it's going to be so cute and it's going to be a little bit chaotic and I'm looking forward to it. But going back to some of the stuff that was going on with Daedalus and Raul, I really feel like Raul is getting to the point where he is going to be doing something to shift power. He's definitely kind of going rogue a little bit and doing his own thing and going against what the people who are in charge of the city want him to do at the moment. At the moment, they're like thinking about what they're gonna do, especially since like Riel's grandfather is like the regent. So I assume if he believes that she's actually dead, he's gonna have to like deal with the fallout of that. I know that she's I have the theory that she's a bit of an experiment, so I assume losing Monad, the proxy, and Riel is a little bit of a loss in whatever experiment they were going through. If and if the regent doesn't believe that Riel is actually dead, then that's an issue because it means that he's being lied to and Riel has gone off on her own to do her own thing. So there's lots of different parts of kind of like people kind of negotiating power. And Daedalus is working for Raoul, but we had a little clip of him kind of showing that part of his plan was to get Raoul to believe that he was working for him so he could get like his position back and some of like the resources to continue his research and stuff like that. So I feel like there's a lot of shifting in terms of who is going to end up in authority, who's going to end up with power and stuff like that, especially with like Riel and Vincent outside of the city. Like they're off on their own quest to like understand proxies and stuff. So like I feel like that's going to be happening for a while, but there's also going to be all of this like power shifting going on that they're going to have to come back to, right? Because there's got to be a standoff of some kind between like Raoul and like Riel and Vincent, and just like Riel and her grandfather, and Vincent and like the city in general that he kind of has a little bit of a grudge against because they didn't treat him super well. So I feel like everything is it's like, that's the last half of the series. We're getting into like we're passing the halfway point with these couple of episodes. So I feel like everything is sort of starting to go into motion. Like we spent a lot of time kind of stuck in place, I feel, because Riel didn't really know what was going on and she was very limited in what she was able to do. And Vincent was trying to figure out what was happening, but he was also denying a lot of stuff that, was going on with him and the whole proxy thing. So I feel like there was a little bit of like aimless wandering that was kind of happening and people kind of staying in their place because that's what was expected of them. And then now people are starting to make moves for like their own independent goals and gains and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to see where this show is going to shift for the last half. I'm also just prepared for it to confuse me because it usually does, but like in the best way. I like that I kind of have to figure it out. I like that it's a little bit of a puzzle every episode, that I kind of have to figure out what pieces are important and then put them in an order that kind of makes sense. So let's get into episode 12 and hopefully see some of what Riel and Vincent's kind of proper meeting and having like a real conversation is gonna look like. In three, two, one, go. There's the necklace that he left at Riel's apartment. Oh, that he has back now because they're together. But they're on the rabbit, and it looks like she's on her own ship. Doesn't know much. A proxy. So he just told her. I mean, what else are you gonna do though, right? I guess it kind of makes sense. Because she's not gonna get any answers if he's like, I'm just a human. Because she knows that he was in her apartment. Are they gonna go to mosque together? Because wasn't it destroyed? Isn't that what Vincent said? That he can like remember it being destroyed and that's why he left? I'd also like to know what the symbol, like the charm on his necklace, actually means. Because it looks like a key of some kind. But I assume it has some kind of meaning to him. And there's like writing on it. I'm sure I'll get some answers eventually. I guess Riel doesn't like fully understand what a proxy is yet, does she? Like she's encountered a couple of them, but she doesn't like really know what they're capable of. Like she hasn't really seen one fight because she like blacked out when the two were in her apartment. So this will be a bit of a learning curve for her. The scary lady. You like having her here? I mean, he kind of calls it to come in that, like, he brings out the proxy when he's in danger. Yes, you are. Oh, he look a little shocked there, Riel. When you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you? Is that the reference? Iggy! You have a very serious face though, Riel. There are a lot of thoughts going on in your head. I guess. And you just learned that someone was a proxy that you had like been around multiple times. Who are you, person with the light knocking over what looked like a almost a gas can? Are we in mosque? What's left of mosque? Ooh, there's plant life here. That's different from the desert we were used to. I love the put out dad vibes that Vincent has when it comes to Pinot. Aww. But I like Iggy. I don't know if Iggy needs more of a personality though, so maybe he should stay away from infected Otto Reeves. Pito's so cute. I would say go proxy mode, but you tend to be a little violent when you go proxy mode. I think there are other proxies out there too. They're awakening, right? That's like the whole thing that's going on. Three, if we can. Monad. I'm just thinking about how much I need to rewatch this series after I'm done. After I'm done, I'm gonna like rewatch it and be like, let me find the clues again. The things I missed. Fair enough. I think he's a little crazy. He does have that split personality thing going on. Be careful. There are people lurking. So they're not in mosque yet, if Vincent is still talking about going there. So why is there a person here? I don't get why Daedalus makes something that could kill the proxy if he is so focused on researching it. Like I wonder if it's actually something that can kill a proxy or if it's just paralyzes it, traps it as a way of building trust with Riel. I don't trust anyone at this point. I really don't trust Daedalus. He's a schemer. I mean, not so much. I agree. Ramdo is starting to get more and more unstable. Mm-hmm. Good point. Make a friend. You're gonna have to see it, aren't you? With your own eyes. Me too, though. I was like, is he? Until I actually saw it, so I get where you're coming from. Well, don't provoke him. You'd kill him. You only have a couple of bullets, so probably want to keep those, especially if he's right about there being other proxies around. Mm-hmm. Aw. You guys barely know each other. Vincent, baby steps. Okay? She barely knows who you are. You also just told her that you're some godlike being. So, ugh, way to distract him. Don't play with his feelings like that, Riel. He's gonna be angry at you for that if he learns that you only did it to get your gun close to you. Hello, other person. Did Iggy figure it out because Pinot seems to be in shutdown. Riel, what are we doing? I don't know if it's people. Like, human. Oh, good. More glowing eyes. There's so many glowing eyes in all of the shows and stuff that I've been watching recently, and it's never ever good. Stresses me out. Ugh, Riel with her hair down was weird. Iggy. I love him. And you're gonna use that to your advantage? Uh, I love Iggy being like the best friend, like doing her hair, gossiping. Where did she wander off to? Focus, Vincent. Uh. Oh no! Oi. Well, there's no way Pino doesn't follow this other being. See, she doesn't have the healthiest sense of self preservation, and she's too curious. She just wanders after whatever she feels is interesting. Food wrappers? Is that what you stole from their ship? Food? Probably not. Oh dear. What is that? What is that? Uh oh. Is he sensing danger, so we're going proxy? Is this gonna be Riel's confirmation that he is what he says he is? What is that giant thing, though? How are you gonna be on the same ship if you won't let Iggy go anywhere near Pino? You're already infected? Because you went next near to it earlier? You went near Pino before? Does the necklace have something to do with his memories? Hmm, not anymore. That's Ergo Proxy. Oh, is it another proxy? It has like the white hair, which tends to be very characteristic of the proxies, like the gray skin and the white hair and the glowing eyes. Yeah, he's that proxy. So does that mean the other one is also a proxy? Because they tend to be in pairs, right? Yeah. Yep. One way to find out. But hopefully not Vincent though. Shoot the other one. Though if its partner finds out, it might be a little upset with you for shooting its partner. Oh, there it is. Yeah, but he's like not the worst proxy. But we haven't really met all of them. The only way we've met properly was a little crazy. So I guess Vincent's a little crazy too, but he was like really crazy. And he drank a lot. Ooh. Ooh. Is it an auto reeve? Because that looked like mechanics, which is interesting. Got the other one? Had another target. So it works. It definitely seems like an auto reef of some kind. We'll explain how, but like, why was it eating then? Yeah, see, Vincent's a little bit, but he'll work through some of it, I'm sure. He's trying. There's gonna be a little bit of uh animosity on the ship. Are we keeping it? Why? I mean, I guess for, yeah, for Daedalus. He's already infected, though. If he goes back, he's gonna infect other Auto Reeves. He doesn't necessarily have to now, though, does he? But he's choosing to. Oh, you hurt his feelings, though. Iggy deserves better. Is this Auto Reeve also infected now? If it is an Auto Reeve, you go to mosque, find answers, just like you planned, except with someone who has threatened to kill you. So, nothing's new. Oh, that was a cool animation with the the snowflake like drop on her eye. So it looks like the Auto Reef that was like in this abandoned place is going after Iggy because that has like the body of the proxy that it was with. It looks like Iggy's already infected though, so he's gonna get more of a personality, more of like independence, independent thought. So that's interesting. You could see from like the graphic on his eyes that like he didn't have to uh obey the command from Riel, but he chose to. A little bit hurt by it, but I'm sure he'll have some things to say when he meets up with her again. I feel like he might come back for her, like come and find her, especially since he like can think for himself now and like knows basically which direction she's going in. But I guess we'll have to see. I mostly just want more Iggy. Just got messages from my Discord. Give me cryptic preview. Mm-hmm. Ooh. Are we gonna get some more Auto Reeves with the virus? So we do have like the idea of there being more proxies, which we've like discussed before, but also like it's kind of been implied before. So the fact that we saw another proxy in this episode, this one seemed like far more animalistic than we've seen previously. Like, really didn't seem to have as much of a grasp on like humanity or like human like characteristics as we've seen before. Like it didn't even really it didn't speak. It didn't like say anything either. So that's an interesting trait. Also, I was like thinking that both of these two new characters we were introduced to would be proxies because so far the proxies that we've seen have traveled in pairs, but it looks like this little person being is actually an auto rave, which I mean, it's designed to look like a proxy, maybe. I'm not really sure where it came from. I'm sure we'll find out because it seems to be following Iggy, going with the body of the proxy, and I'm sure that Douglas is going to try and resurrect this proxy because that just seems like something Douglas would do, which makes me a little uncomfortable because it seemed a little bit more aggressive and animalistic, and just Daedalus having control over pretty much anything makes me a little bit uncomfortable because I don't trust him. He schemes and he has plans, and I don't think he tells anyone truly what he's up to. Riel probably least of all. He has like this twisted idea of like, I feel like he kind of feels almost a family tie to Riel because he was in charge of like raising her, sort of. So it's like I feel like he kind of has a soft spot for her, and I definitely feel like he has what he thinks are the best intentions for her, but it's like a twisted kind of affection that I don't trust. But we're kind of separating again. We have like Iggy going back to Daedalus with the body of the proxy. I feel like because he's been infected, that he's gonna come back for Riel because he's able to kind of think for himself now. He doesn't have to follow her commands or anyone else's from the looks of it. So that means that I think he's gonna come back because he does care about her. I think he cares about Riel probably a lot more than a lot of the other people in her life. So I think he'll come back eventually, and or at least meet her part way when she's coming back to Ramdo, because it's like she has to eventually, right? Which of course brings us to Riel and Vincent. So her seeing him turn into a proxy and kind of getting confirmation that that is exactly what he is. Her also getting confirmation that the weapon Douglas gave her actually works, which I find a little bit odd because I feel like Douglas, because he wants to research the proxies, that like it feels like a weird thing that he would make something that could kill them. But I guess if he also wants to protect Riel in his own way, that he would want to make something that would keep her protected. Which like also because he knows more about this other proxy than he's been letting on from like the conversation that he had with Raoul. So I feel like he might know what Vincent is, like know that Vincent is the proxy, and maybe he's giving her that weapon because he knows that she's going to be in contact with him. So I don't know. I don't know anything about Douglas because like I don't trust anything. So maybe that's his reasoning. I'm not sure. And then of course we have Vincent saying that he's in love with Riel, which is strange because they don't actually know each other, but um but I feel like it goes back to the whole idea of my idea that Riel actually has some of the proxy DNA in her. Like some experiment has been done to like splice her and proxy DNA together. And considering that the proxy that Douglas was experimenting on was Monad, then Monad was like Ergo's partner. So if that is like the connection, if like that's part of it, then like I feel like it might be more of like an instinctual thing is why he's drawn to her as opposed to like actually knowing her. I mean, I guess if they actually spend time together, who knows what'll happen. But like I feel like because they don't actually have like any real they haven't had any like real interactions with each other, that it's like a weird thing. And she was also like Riel was also talking about being oddly drawn to him. So I feel like it's probably that, if my theory about the whole splice DNA thing is right, but I feel like it is. All of the signs are there that I'm like, it has to be that, right? Watch me be wrong in like 5 episodes. But so I feel like that is more what's going on is it's like this instinctual attraction more than anything else. So we have Riel with Vincent and Pino going toward Mosque. Riel threatening Vincent like you do. And I feel like it's gonna be a little bit of a difficult building of any kind of trust between them as they go forth on their journey. Maybe they'll never actually establish any trust between them. I don't know, but I hope that they do. I feel like that episode, that was like a little bit easier for my brain to process than the dream episode because there's a lot of like philosophical talk going on and like existentialism and stuff. So let's get into episode 13 and see where our journey takes us. I don't know if we're going to go back to some of the stuff that was going on in Remdos or if we're going to just stay with Vincent and Riel and Pino on the rabbit. I don't know. Kind of want to know what's up with Iggy, but I know that that's my bias talking. So let's get into episode 13. In 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, is Iggy in trouble? Why do they always say raison d'être? Like, why is that the word that we're using all the time? Oh, it's a flashback. So did he get infected before then? Like, has he been infected for a while? Or is it just him recently kind of letting it affect him? I don't like the red eyes, but I mean, Iggy's always, I don't know, he's been a little bit different, I feel, from like a lot of the other auto revs that we've met. Maybe that is just me being biased towards him again, though. Maybe he's not that different, but he feels different. I like that we're still getting an Iggy part of the story, though. Interesting that there's a snowstorm. It just kind of clicked in my head. Because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of, like, water outside of the cities. Like, it seems like a very desert land. And I asked at some point, no, different show I was talking about that, but um, deserts can be both hot and cold. Both count as deserts. So I guess I was just like I guess it kind of makes sense that it'd be a cold desert though, considering that it's more of like a wasteland because of the like pollution and stuff. She's her name is Pino. Riel, the attitude not helping the situation. You're being very nasty. Is it because of the weather? Do you not do well with cold? Or is it the stress of like being in this place? Is Iggy coming back? Or just landing? I feel like he's coming back. Oh? Yes, he sees you. Are we sabotaging the ship? Yes. Still only has one arm. That's one way to get the door open. So we're not going back to Deadless? Is Iggy about to go on a vendetta against Vincent, though? Iggy, do not turn to the dark side. I like you too much. But why? Where did it get an auto reef? An artificial womb? Is this what's left of a city? Ooh, was it the city that the proxy was in charge of? They've got a bit of a god complex. I guess they kind of are gods, though, depending on how you look at it. He was just trying to give you a blanket. You need to chill out. Or maybe not, because, like, he is a proxy, and you've had some issues with them attacking you, so fair enough. Unlikely. Pino really doesn't take commands. Could say the same for you. You can't fix your own hair? Seems very ominous. Iggy, that seems like a very good way to get yourself completely destroyed. Okay, Iggy, you're freaking me out. I need you to not be like that. You're not even gonna say thank you? Hmm, that seems very convoluted. Plus, I feel like that auto reef is gonna want to off her. Iggy's gone to the dark side. Oh, right. That was forever ago. I forgot about that. It's a good point. He's been good at acting, though. That means a long decline to this point. Iggy! But I liked you. I'm so heartbroken. This is not the Iggy story I was expecting. She's so grumpy. And Rio's being kidnapped. Isn't that the coffin? Oh, creepy. Iggy. But also, I kind of see where you're coming from. I like that line though. You can't write him off just because he's gotten complicated. She seems to do that a lot. feel weird because I agree with the evil Iggy a little bit. She didn't want to. It's not much of an answer. Maybe don't leave her alone with the auto reef that, like, definitely wants her dead. I'm just saying. Riel, you angered a lot of auto reefs around. Pino. Oh. Iggy, do not touch Pino. She's off limits. Well, that's ominous. You never begin a conversation by saying, I'm not going to hurt you. It's complicated and convoluted. I mean, he doesn't have a great track record with that either, so I see where you're coming from, Iggy, but I need you to stop being a little bit evil. I mean, you killed Monad. True. Iggy, you don't not fit for combat. I don't see this going well for you. You left the gun though. That this one seems more fit for combat. Well, this is awkward. That face though. Ooh, does it have a bomb in it? Iggy! I have so many conflicting emotions. Okay. Giving it back. I'm so upset in so many different ways. I was not ready for this episode to make me cry. I just wasn't. Hang on. Okay. No, I'm still not okay. I just I just talked about how much I loved Iggy, and now I don't know how to feel. We'll just we'll talk after. I need a second. Ominous fairy tale imagery. So we took a little bit of a break after that episode because it was a little bit more emotional than I was ready for. Not gonna lie. I don't know exactly what my like frame of mind was into that episode. I was like, we're probably gonna get some more like Riel and Vincent interaction and the kind of like tension they're in. Maybe a little bit of Iggy flying back to Ramdo, that kind of a thing. Was not expecting my heart to be ripped out of my chest and crushed into a million pieces. So let's focus on one thing at a time. Riel, a little bit of a not the nicest person in this episode. She's not the most pleasant in general. Like she's not a like people person really. Um, but she's a tad more uh tad more attitude in this episode than we have seen before, or at least that I've noticed. Maybe I just felt like personally attacked because it was like towards Pino and Iggy, and I'm just like, you can't do that. But she seemed a little bit more unpleasant than I'm used to her being. Maybe part of that is just like the amount of crap that's been thrown her way recently. She did like almost get killed, and then like finding out that Vincent's a proxy and like the person that she's been searching after is actually like the thing that she's been searching after, but also like proxies kind of like live in her nightmares for like obvious reasons. So like, a certain amount of unpleasantness. I'm like, understood she's under a lot of pressure, a lot of stuff's going on. But I think the main thing about this is like her denial, like the fact that she doesn't want to see the things that she doesn't want to see, like the fact that she's like deliberately blocking out stuff that she doesn't want to accept. And that characteristic makes me more worried than anything else. Like her having a bit of an attitude, whatever. I mean, I guess she probably is a little bit spoiled because she's like a special person, like her grandfather's the regent and she's like, Ria Maya or whatever. People kind of treat her like she's special, so I get her kind of being a little bit entitled in some ways. But I feel like her denial to see what is in front of her is like a much bigger character flaw, given that she's like an investigator and like the amount of stuff that she is currently investigating, but like also like being a part of, that her like seeing things for what they are is really important. Which like brings us to Iggy and like the fact that she like really didn't see anything in Iggy other than him being her auto reeve. Like the fact that she refuses to see past the like, I don't know how to word this, the practical use of Iggy as opposed to anything deeper than that. And that gets translated into how she was treating Pino too. Like in her brain, auto reeves are like things that make life easier. They're tools as opposed to anything else. Which like I suppose in some contexts is like a useful way of keeping that frame of mind, but isn't super helpful when dealing with an auto reeve that has the cogito virus, and also like a really good way of like, you know, making the robots angry when they gain sentience is to like treat them as objects and tools. that's what every sci-fi movie about robots has ever taught me. So, maybe she should like just reconsider like a little bit about that. And that brings us like with Iggy, he had one of my favorite lines in this episode, which is I probably won't get the wording exactly right, especially considering the translation, but it's like you don't get to just write me off because I'm complicated now, like something along those lines. And I love that concept of like, Riel being like, this is like my world, this is what I understand, this is what is in front of me, and like it is simple and it is uncomplicated and I understand it, and everything else is like not allowed. Like that's kind of how her mind is. Like she's kind of this narrow view not only on Otto Reeves but like on other stuff in general, which is why I find that more of a character flaw because of the way that it scales, right? If you reject things that you like don't fit into your view, like don't fit into how you see the world, that is a really good way of getting blindsided by stuff. So the fact that Icky was like, I'm just because I'm complicated now doesn't mean that you get to like reject that this is who I am. And so I feel like that goes into a lot of things. That goes into how Riel sees Vincent. That goes into how Riel, probably sees like Daedalus and like lots of other people who are in her life is like kind of stuck in her like small view of what they are, and then having to accept now with all of the stuff and all the revelations that they don't fit into that box anymore. Like Vincent doesn't fit into that box of like innocent immigrant worker who got tangled up in things he shouldn't have. He is a proxy. Like that is who he is, and she doesn't get to like just ignore that. Same with Iggy. Iggy isn't just a loyal Otto Reeve now. He's more than that. Like he sees himself as having a soul. He has a soul, and because of that, she had to like probably deal with that situation a little bit differently. Like I think of Pino, who also has the infection, but obviously has a very different way of looking at it. Part of that might be just because Pino is like a companion Otto Reeve, so like there's like different, like she wasn't expected to actually like do any specific work or anything the way that like Iggy was. Like she wasn't necessarily meant to like obey commands, but she was meant to like mimic a child. I think the other thing is that she was meant to mimic a child, so children have like a different mentality than like adults do. They tend to be like slightly less vindictive, or at least like have a shorter memory attention span. So like that's different too, but I also feel like Vincent accepted Pino for what she was. Like Vincent is never trying to like make Pino something else, and he's never trying to like control her or reprogram her or anything like that, as opposed to Riel, who was like aggressively against Iggy being exactly what he was. And I feel like if Riel had dealt with that situation slightly differently, maybe Iggy wouldn't have been like saved or like savable, because he did seem a little bit at the end there, but he might have like reacted much differently to interacting with her, and like the escalation of events might have happened slightly differently. Like, but like I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter because that's not what happened, and I am so upset. I'm so upset about the whole Iggy thing. I can't even put it into words. I think, is this the first time I've cried during this show? I cry during other things, but I think this is the first time I've cried during Ergo Proxy, and I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I'm emotionally crushed. I was just talking about the end of the last episode, how much I love Iggy. It's like one of my favorite characters, him and Pino, and I'm very uncomfortable with the idea that he like did a 180 in this episode. And I'm also uncomfortable with me that like I also didn't key in my brain that he had come into contact with infected Otto Reeves before this. Like he had come in contact with a Cogito virus, and it didn't click in my brain that that's like a possibility that he also would have been infected. So like I also wasn't paying attention to him, just like he said about Riel, and that makes me feel bad because I love him. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, hun. I wasn't paying attention. I got caught up in the whole Vincent thing and dream sequences and Riel, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. It's just, it was a lot for me. It was more than I was expecting, and they made him a little grave mound, and yeah, I had to take a break because I was really sad. I had to, I had to take a little while to just like not be an emotional wreck for this end conversation. But nevertheless, we must move forward, and uh, I don't really know what's gonna happen. It doesn't look like we're gonna be going back to Ramdo, at least in the case of like characters like Riel, Vincent, Pino kind of thing. Like before I was like, well, Iggy might go back and then we'll get like a connection back to that story, but I feel like we'll just get a connection with like Daedalus or Raoul like doing their own thing. So we might get a little bit of a parallel story there, but I feel like mostly we're just gonna be focusing on Riel and Vincent and Pino and their continued journey for answers. Um, I feel like we're gonna run into some more proxies. I'm really curious about this last proxy because we've seen like them in pairs, like I was talking before. There's like always two of them. So I'm like, what happened to the other one? And why was there an artificial womb? And like what was this kind of like deserted city, civilization of some kind? Like what happened there? I always have more questions than answers at the end of these episodes, but I hope you enjoyed watching along with me. If you did, you can click the playlist up here in the corner to go and watch the other reactions that I did if you haven't watched them already. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.